Welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Axion.
I'm Scint.
And we are continuing through Undertale and our discussion of Mariel of Redwall by Brian Jacques.
You ever feel like we've been here before?
You know, that could be taken a lot of different ways.
How so?
Well, one, we do this, a lot, and we put out our videos twice a week. I'm pretty sure both of us have played Undertale before. I read all the Redwall books we own are mine from my childhood, and I read pretty much all of them a lot.
Okay, fair. So, yeah, I meant this in a more like a meta-narrative sense.
I was gonna get to that. We both have read this book, and it's very, very similar in plot to the first Redwall book that we already reviewed some time ago.
Now, I was actually going to be focusing on the fact that Mariel of Redwall is what we call a prequel, a story that is written after the other one is published, but set chronologically before. So, yeah, there's a lot of plot similarities. There's also, these things had to happen, so this could happen, so we're gonna do some retconning, potentially.
Yep. Me too, Alphys. Me too. Whee! So, we have... We have the, we have a few things that are missing from the Redwall we are introduced to in the first book. That through this book or through more prequels would need to be put in place in order to end up with the Redwall we end up with in the first book. Namely, Martin's sword is not stuck to the weather vane on the roof, and there is no bell in the bell tower of Redwall Abbey.
Yep. So, as we mentioned in our plot recap, this book does explain how those things get into place. And yeah, I had actually almost missed the bit about how the sword got to the weather vane because it's mentioned at the very last page in the epilogue that they put it there. So I had been confused for a bit of I thought the sword was not there yet. Gasp. But not a plot hole, just me having a reading comprehension moment. And the bell is basically the central focus of the plot, because Clooney stealing the bell before it can be delivered to Lord Rondelade at Salamandastron is what kicks off the entire story.
Wrong pirate.
Clooney, Kabul, whatever.
I knew that was going to... Pardon me. I knew that was going to happen eventually, that we were going to mix up Clooney and Gabul.
Wasn't intentional. It was not to prove a point or anything. I'm just dumb.
I mean, it's a reasonable mistake to make, as we've said before, given how the plot of this story overlaps so much with that of the original story. Which, as a result, we're probably not going to talk a huge amount about how this story builds into the setup for Redwall, and more just kind of talk in more general terms about how these kinds of prequel stories need to work to function in the way they're supposed to be designed to keep the progression of prequel to original story to sequel working properly.
And there are a variety of ways you can do this. In some cases, it's just the story is set so far back that even having a complete resolution of the plot and everything all tied up with a neat little bow is not going to disrupt the story that will come later, which I think is kind of the case here with Mariel. Like, getting the bell is the main thing that had to happen for the plot to have continuity. They did that, and it was far enough back that no one really has to know what Mariel and Dan do at the end of the story. It's just they go off to do adventure-y things because they wanted to have adventures, which, okay, fine. It doesn't really matter all that much. There are also the ones that they're far enough away that there is an in-story reason that people have gotten details incorrect. Mariel is not one of those because there wasn't really a story about the bell that they had to, correct and retcon. Speaking of, if you do change things with the story and it does actively impact things in the later, greater plot, you might have to change, to do a retcon or retroactive continuity. Mariel, I believe, manages to avoid this. Granted, Mariel is also one of the earlier published Redwall books to my knowledge, so there wasn't as much that would need changing, so everything was still mostly fairly consistent. I do not remember this puzzle.
I do, but I don't remember how I solved it.
I think you moved the blocks.
You can't see the glare I'm giving you.
I cannot. That's okay, though. But, yeah. One of the ones that comes to mind for me would be probably the one that comes to mind for a lot of people. Star Wars Episodes 1 through 3.
Oh boy. We're gonna have
Midichlorians.
We're gonna have Star Wars fans arguing in the comments.
I'm just saying, things had to be changed, or were not thought through, and therefore changed things, such as grain of salt, I am not the biggest Star Wars person. I will get things wrong. I've seen the movies a few times. They're okay. Don't at me. But it is my knowledge that they talked about the Clone Wars and everything and the Jedi as being a long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away.
Okay, no, even in the universe, I barely remember those. They're just a myth. But then the prequels come out, and they're 20 years ago. That's kind of like me saying Smurfs. Those weren't. That was never a cartoon. Why are you talking about this? No, it wasn't that long ago. So that's a case of a retcon that kind of actively hurts a lot of your mythos, which, yeah. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
I feel absolutely moronic right now.
Why?
Because I know I have finished this before, and I cannot for the...
I don't remember what the solution to this is. You just need a path? Can you walk on the black slot ones?
No, I'm at this red console at the bottom, and controlling the blocks by using the D-pad, and I need to clear a path so my yellow arrow can shoot the white arrow at the top. So I need this third column to be empty. And I know it can be done because I've done it before, but I don't remember how.
What's the little note thingy? Is that instructions or?
Yeah, it just told me to shoot the other ship. Move the blocks and shoot the other ship.
I hope the entire video is not shitty Tetris.
Nah, if I can't get it in a minute or so, I'm just gonna go look it up on my phone.
Okay. But yeah, prequels and flashbacks do have a pretty solid narrative purpose, as we've mentioned. Flashbacks are essentially just on a much smaller scale. It can cut back to something that's already happened. It can be recapping something that you have already seen over the course of the story, or it can just be, okay, we're going to cut to something that happened a while ago that the audience has not been able to have access to before to add clarity to a scene. That happens here as well when they induce Mariel's trance so she can recall her past. This is a flashback. She's telling us something that happened then. We're experiencing that, but it's new information to us. So Mariel kind of does both, though it's a little iffy to call that one that because, well, she's just saying it. It's not like the narrative just smashes back to the past and then we're in the future again.
And basically, the big difference between the two is that a flashback is just a look at a specific scene, whereas a prequel is taking that entire... is basically that just bigger.
Yeah, you're telling an entire story that happened before the main story. And it's a really interesting way to kind of flesh out the world in some regards. Not in this one, because you don't really get any world building that's not established in, other Redwall books, except here's where the bell came from. On the other hand, we do get Mariel, and I'm not going to complain about that because Mariel's great.
Oh, it kicked me off of it.
So yeah, do you have anything else to add with regard to past tense storytelling?
I mean, not really, beyond the general idea of... I pushed the wrong button. Wait, you can blow up the blocks?
A puzzle solution worthy of Mariel. I'm just gonna hit it. Tell me I'm wrong.
That shows you how long it's been since I played this.
No, Alice, you can go ahead and explain the puzzle if you want. I can't imagine why they don't even want to go to work.
Knowing I can blow the blocks up made that so much easier.
Negotiating through superior firepower.
But yeah, the basic issue is when the expectations set by an original story and the explanation provided by the prequel are either considered unnecessary or don't work together. And to go back to the Star Wars example, a lot of the big issue people had with the Star Wars prequels was that they explained things that most of the fans felt didn't need explaining. So when we got the, for example, when we got the Midichlorians thing, that was giving a pseudo-scientific fictional explanation for the Force, which a lot of the fans of the original trilogy felt was unnecessary because it took something that was fictional and fantastical and basically magic and tried to turn it into something with a scientific, biological basis. And a lot of the fans felt that this was bad storytelling. And this can be an extremely subjective thing. I've run into more than a few people who prefer the prequels over the original trilogy, and one of the common
Why?
One of the common complaints that a lot of them give is that the things that the fans of the original trilogy complain about with, like, midichlorians and things like that, is that they like those explanations. They like the magic of the setting having a scientific, biological basis. They like a lot of the changes that were made to the world. And while I personally don't really follow that logic myself, it shows that it is a very subjective, very personal position to hold.
I mean, I could get into thoughts on this, but it kind of goes away from the actual topic of this little series, so I'll probably hold off. I'm sure we'll have a book at some point that would let me touch on it a little more, but this is not that one.
In that case, I don't really have much more to add.
Alright, then let's stop before Chainsaw Chef 9000 decides to slice and dice.
Alright, we will see you all next time.